Stephanie Houston, welcome to Truckin On.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here today.
I'm excited to see you in real life. It's been a long time. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. I think when we talked on the phone a couple weeks ago, you mentioned that the last time we had seen each other could be maybe 12, 13 years ago.
Possibly.
Or maybe even longer.
I think it was probably around 2013, 14.
Yeah, for sure.
Before
then.
Yeah.
I think I moved to Austin in 2013. So I've been gone for almost 12 years.
2012. Mm-hmm. I remember specifically I was sober, like my first go at sobriety. So I did not drink for 1 year, and we did a Slick 57 reunion show, and we rehearsed at your house.
Right.
And on Patrick, which I love that house. It's been my inspiration really for like manifesting this house, I think.
I drove by that house recently and I thought like, what an idiot I am for selling that.
Oh my gosh.
It's, that was such a gem, but I have to just kind of like hang on to that idea. Like I'll find something better.
That's right. It will come.
It'll come.
This happened to me out of thin air. Like I wasn't even looking, and I'd always wanted to move back to Lakewood. I love the idea of my kids going to Woodrow, and I would look at houses in Lakewood and they're so overpriced and lots are typically so small, and I just couldn't make sense of anything. And then I just stopped looking and like just left it to the universe and said like, if this needs to happen, then send me the house. And then this house like found me. I did not look for this house. I got like convinced to come look at it by my friend, and out of nowhere.
Wow.
And I wasn't even house hunting. But that happens, I think, when you're like crystal clear on what you want. And then the universe will deliver and you don't have to really do any work.
Absolutely. I think as I've moved back to Dallas, I just picked up a place right outside of downtown, kind of like, I think they call it North Deep Ellum.
On the dating apps, they call it Old East Dallas.
Okay. Well, I live in Old East Dallas, I think. I don't know. I feel like it's Bryan Place, whatever. Yeah. XL Park. It's good for now. I like the proximity to my new projects and kind of everything. And I think I've always, in my mind, I've wanted that big loft with the big windows and like Start Club kind of like essence and all those things. But then I come into Lakewood every single time and I go, damn, I still want like grass and like beautiful creeks and all those things that Lakewood really has. And it's still like, I love it because it's still in the pocket, like you can get anywhere fast from here. And that has been kind of I think I'm not clear on it yet because I want a big loft in downtown that has a yard and a creek. Does that exist? Not in this town, I don't think.
That's right. That's right.
I've never lived. Austin thing.
I lived in like kind of a lofty place by American Airlines Center for a while after Rob and I. So, I mean, I met you because
of Rob.
Rob Schumacher, the final drummer in the history of 10 plus drummers, probably for Slick 57. He was our final drummer. We lived together for years.
I remember that place. I actually live really close to there. And I remember like the shopping cart. There was like a grocery cart like in the center of the living room.
Oh my God. I like to think that I was like Rob's drunken dad, second dad. And he was like living in Denton on a couch when we met, and he joined the band. Like, you can move in with me, but you have to get a job. Like, right. I think I might have had that same conversation with him. He got a job at Carrabba's, and then he became Carrabba Rob. And I mean, then he had a job at the Magnolia Theater, and he's working all these. He had like 3 jobs and crushing it. And then he met you, and I met you, and that's how it all went down.
Right.
And I mean, meeting you, you're a very unique individual, and you're inspiring, and you just, especially to our crowd that we were running with, right? Like, where did this person come from? And I don't know how. I mean, you were probably around like 30-ish or early.
I don't think so. I had to be older. I'll be 52 this year.
Okay.
So
Good job.
Thank you.
Self-care.
I was probably 4 or 5 years older than he was. So
mid 30s.
Yeah. He's 77. I was 73. So 4 years. Yeah. I was 38, 36, 38, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Having a midlife crisis, as we do.
Yeah, that's right. And you were driving a Ferrari?
I was driving a Ferrari. I started a club in Deep Ellum, and I decided to try to marry a punk rock drummer, right? That's what I always tell everybody.
Was he teaching your kids drum lessons? Is that how you met him?
I met him through that school. I don't think he was teaching one of my kids at the time, but there was definitely that kind of that thing that happened. And like I said, it was really kind of a weird time for me. I think I was going through my own, I always say that was my personal crisis year. I had this company that I had sold a couple years prior, and it kind of set me up to be able to do whatever I wanted. And simultaneously, it was a complete catastrophe. The first thing that happened when I sold the company is I got sued 3 times. I mean, like one after another. And so I started kind of like spiraling out a little bit. And I was at a point where I couldn't get out of bed anymore. And I had all this money. I had this beautiful house in Lakewood. I had these 2 amazing kids, and I couldn't get out of bed. And I think Rob came around, and he's kind of this like joyful guy, right? He's
a force of light.
He's
within
a force
this world,
of light. He really is. And it helped me get out of bed. And so I think that like I kind of latched onto that a little bit, as far as like he helped me get out of that depressive state that I was in. And I started LaGrange and this big project in Deep Ellum, and it started to kind of like take off, and all of these things were happening. And simultaneously, I was still like just really dissatisfied, just in general, because what I had picked, I think, was a patch. It was a Band-Aid to I was kind of like Band-Aiding my crisis that I was having with things. With projects, with work, with trying to, in some ways, I think that even our relationship was it was a project. How can I, get in and improve something or someone or myself or whatever it was, like, how could I get to that place where I have this like, oh, cool, I've checked all the boxes. I've been successful in business. I've been successful financially. I've been successful. I've got 2 great kids. I'm, a parent. I'm doing all these things. And now I have this perfect relationship, and here it is. And I had none of those things at all at the same time until I think now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you bought him a hearse too. So if you guys showed up, it was either in a hearse or a Ferrari. But I don't think I ever saw you arrive in the hearse, but you guys had some cars that would make people's eyes pop out.
Yeah, they were very juxtaposed in our driveway. We had
polar opposite cars.
Yeah, I had a silver with white leather convertible Ferrari that I had bought like in Miami. And had trucked over, and it was
you have to buy that in Miami.
And it was such a spectacle when this thing happened. And again, remember, like, I was a car person always, like, even when I was a kid. Like, I remember watching those like 80s movies, and Tom Cruise rolls up in that 928S, and I'm thinking, like, I always had photos of cars like all over. You can ask any of my Catholic school friends, right? And so that was always my dream, was to have a supercar. I used to just read like the Dallas Morning News or Times Herald, whatever we were reading at the time, and look at all the car ads and just look at them like, DeLorean, oh man, like just all these crazy cars listed for sale. And I was like, one day I'm going to get one. And so there were 2 things that happened when I sold my company. The first thing I did was I literally went from our kind of celebration dinner I won the check, right? There was a deposit slip that we were kind of all vying for, and my name got drawn out of the 5 partners. And so I had this check with this giant number on it. And I was sat in my car and I wrote a check out for my entire student loan balance. And I dropped it in the mail. And at the time, I don't think we even had ACH type payments. I don't think that. So it was actually a check that I wrote. And I dropped it in the mail. And then I had this bottle of Dom that I picked up, and I came home to celebrate with my husband at the time, who was not having it. Like, he was like, oh, this is such a drag. And it was not Rob, but I was married prior to that. And he was just not like, so I go home and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, here I am. I've just made it. I've just done it. I did it. I did the thing. And I'm coming home and I'm going to sit here and drink this bottle of champagne by myself, and watch TV. There's literally like no joy happening, in this house. And so that relationship ended. And one of the things that I said was like, you know what? Nobody's going to tell me what to do or how to do it with my money that I made. I'm going. And so I got plane tickets and I went and I test drove this Ferrari. I found the one that I wanted. And I went and just paid cash for it. Like, just wrote the check, paid cash for it. And a couple weeks later, it got delivered. And it got delivered to the place that's like on Richmond and Greenville. There's like I think it's a Sam's or it used to be Whole Foods, and it had closed. So this parking lot was empty. It's right across from like Doty's.
The Libertine.
It was right across from Libertine. I'm probably saying like all the things from 10 years ago, but this giant truck rolls up and it is like glorious. It's got supercars all on the side, and this crowd starts to gather because this truck has pulled up, and I'm just waiting in the parking lot, and this big like ramp comes out, and this driver comes down, and he's driving Lamborghinis out and parking it. And the next one is a Ferrari, and the next one is something crazy. And mine was the last car. Yeah. I think that's a sign from the universe that says like, don't ever freaking do that again.
That would give me so much anxiety to like be in that situation, really.
Yeah. Like I said, this crowd starts to gather, and it was almost like smoke came out of the back of the truck. That didn't happen, but it felt like it because, the exhaust systems are like roaring up, and there was a little smoke, but it wasn't like grandiose with like neon lights in the back. But my car comes out last, and I'm just looking at it, and they take all the plastic off of it, and he hands me the keys, and everyone's like, yay. And I have no idea how to drive this car.
Oh gosh.
And so
I didn't even think about that. Is it a, like a stick shift?
Well, I can drive a stick, but this particular car, like, you had to do certain things to get it to fire on. And the driver didn't really know that I did know or didn't know. So it was running when I got it. So when I drove it and I like drive away, down, I think I was living,
is it automatic though? Or is it okay?
It was a paddle shift. And it had some automatic, feature to it. But again, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I just knew I was shifting it at the steering wheel. And so I'm going, and there's no real like levers in it. And it's kind of old school on the inside.
So wait, you pedal, so there's a clutch.
There's no clutch.
Okay, there's no clutch. But you have to like move gears on your own.
And it's on the steering wheel.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's a paddle shift. So you click right to go up, in your gear, and left to go down.
I assume it's real smooth how this works once you figure it out. It's just like cha-chung, cha-chung.
It's a rocket. So one of my favorite things about that car was, I would just be driving it, top down, white leather. I think it was like one of a handful of cars that had white leather in it. And I would pull up to like a stop sign, and it would be in Lakewood, Mockingbird and Abrams, Mockingbird at Skillman, or like one time I was at Exall Park, and I would always be parked there, and somebody would pull up next to me and start revving their engine. And I'd be like, oh God, here it comes. Well, I think in my next life, I want to be a race car driver. Like, that's something, like, I am telling you, like, I love cars. I love racing. I love driving fast. I love the whole thing of it. And so one time I was on Live Oak, at Excel Park, and I pull up to that light and I hear the rev, and I was like, oh my God, who is this? And I look over and it's the sheriff. It's like two officers in this car, and they're revving up. And so I looked at them and I just like took off, and they flashed their lights and they like laughed. It was really funny. So everywhere I go, I would race somebody because that's just how it was. So my favorite thing to see was like a Ford Mustang coming up, because I was like, here we go. And I would just down click twice on that left and rocket.
That is awesome.
Now I drive like a little SUV. It's not fast at all.
I've always driven SUVs for the majority of my life, but I did get a Tesla in 2017. And that was the first, I was in someone else's Tesla, and it's kind of right when Teslas were becoming like a thing. And I was at a conference and someone had a Tesla there, and I rode in that, like, it was the first time I'd been in a really fast car, and someone just like hammered it, and it felt so cool. And I got one. I only drove it for 9 months. I got the Model X with the wing doors, you know? And I felt like whenever I would take my kids to daycare, probably the same levels that you felt when you were having your Ferrari offloaded, like the wing doors coming up, and they would like close on me, and the Tesla and I just did not get along well. I got locked out of it. It was the most I'd ever spent on a car in my life. Yeah. And I got like the lock stopped working, and I was at yoga. It's like 5 a.m. yoga class. And I was covered in sweat, and I had to ask like some lady in my yoga class to drive me home so I could get my iPad and open up the door, because my phone was in the car. So I got rid of the Tesla, but it was like fun. That's a fast car for me. Yeah. And I enjoyed it, but now I have a Jeep. So
perfect.
It's built for me.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it was by far the most expensive car I ever had. I think there was, anytime you would valet it, there was some damage to the car. I had to have like my reverse lever replaced because people would just jerk it back, and then it would have to be replaced. And taking a car like that to a Ferrari dealership it's a 6-week minimum that you don't have that car. So you're paying for it to be in the shop a lot, because I don't know if you've ever seen the bottom of a Ferrari, but it's kind of like a Matchbox car. Like there's a lid or like a closure on the bottom to protect the whole bottom of the car. And so they take it off with this one key. And there's like 1 or 2 mechanics in the Dallas area at the time that had that key. So I would just take it to the Ferrari dealership, because I took it to the other place. They changed my oil, and it was a $10,000 repair.
Wow.
Yeah. For an oil change.
Yeah. You don't think about that when you're paying like whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a car, and then the expenses that come with it.
Yeah. And the
Tesla was the same way back then. I'm sure it's better now, but like you have to take it to the one Tesla place in all of Dallas by Love Field, and it's going to be there for weeks.
Forever. Yeah. And I think that was the thing I learned, like when I was a kid looking through those ads, like I always bought those types of cars used. I always buy most of my cars used, right? Like I paid, I think, a third of the price of the original person who bought that. Same thing, like whenever I traded it in for a Maserati or something like that, like it was a third of the price. Like these are $50,000 cars. They're not expensive when you think about it. So you're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And you go, yeah, like I'll get the $50,000 back that I paid for this, but it's not what you think. So I really tried to think about, that moving forward. And I go like, okay, like where do I invest the money? And I'm still like, cars are my worst expenditure of all time. Like if I had to call up Sewell and ask him how many cars I bought, it's definitely in the 30s. Like it's high.
I'm with you there. Like, I mean, I get so much shit for it because I don't buy
purses or shoes, but I buy cars.
Yeah, I do the same thing. And I buy a new car probably on average every 2 years or something. And but I never have to take my car to the shop because of that.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I like to go buy a used car that has like 3,000 miles on it. That's
Perfect.
my move.
Yes.
And
The dealer, this was like a demo, right?
yeah. And I had a really good run. I leased a car right before COVID. And then I decided to get another car in 2021, and my lease cars had gone so much up in value because of the pandemic that I got like a check back or something. And I bought this Tahoe, and then I drove that for 2 years. And then I just got the Jeep, and the Jeep, I got like another check back from the Tahoe because the Tahoe is more expensive than the Jeep. So I've been on this run where I actually didn't even pay for the last 2 cars really.
Yeah, I gotta learn how to do that one.
That's been fun. Yeah, you just have to like go.
You just have to have a pandemic.
Go from Lexus to Chevrolet to Jeep. That's what you do. But okay, let's go back in time. You grew up in Dallas, right?
I did.
Were you born and raised?
Oak Cliff. I was born in San Antonio.
Okay.
But I moved to Dallas when I was 1 month old. So I consider myself a Dallasite.
So I normally like to start age 12.
Okay.
What happened in your life that shaped you into who you are today? So if you want to start sooner, go for it. But if not, tell me about like ages 12 to 22 and what your life looked like.
Awesome. So at that time, I grew up in Oak Cliff, which is, I love it because it's still always Dallas proper, right? A lot of people say they're from Dallas and they're like, but it's Capel. And I'm like, no, it's not Dallas. So I loved being there. My family was there. My parents moved here in the 70s, so my dad could work. He was an electrical contractor. So my parents actually, we were doing great. I was at a Catholic school. I went to Margaret B. Henderson for a couple of years, which is kind of like right there in the Elmwood district. And then I ended up going to St. Elizabeth. And that's where I went to grade school. But my parents got divorced when I was 12. And we went from being a middle-class family, like just fine, living well and not, extreme anything. But like we had vacations and we're never thinking the lights were going to turn off, right? There was always that, to being the opposite, which was complete destitution. I think my mom, she was such a badass because, she was a young parent. She had me when she was 17. She didn't know anything about, life or glass ceilings or corporate world. She didn't know anything about that. She was a kid when she had me. And so when they moved here, like, think about it, she was 17. It's crazy.
How old was your dad?
He was 20.
Okay.
Yeah. So 2 kids. And it was one of those things where, when they divorced, as you would when you start to grow and think about relationships and whatever happens as you advance as an adult, they parted ways. And my mom at the time, I think she was making like $6,000 a year, working full time. I mean, remember, this is back when even minimum wage was like $2.85. I mean, it was low. And so we went from being this middle-class family, with 2 incomes to having this 1 income, and some child support. And I really think that time period was something that really kind of shaped who I am today. I think I had to learn a lot of ways to survive because my mom was going to school in the morning and work at night. And so I was basically kind of raising myself, when she wasn't there.
You were with mom full time?
Full time. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she figured it out. And we never had our electricity shut off. We never had late payments of any type. She had her struggles for sure, but she kept the lights on. And that was really important because I saw her and I saw all of the things that she was doing to make things happen and make things help us survive. And the thing about it is a lot of this was happening in silence. Our family didn't know we were struggling like that.
Did you have siblings?
No.
Okay.
I was an only child.
Only child. So it's you and your mom.
It was me and my mom, and the bulk of our family lived in San Antonio. My dad's family lived here, part of them. But nobody knew the extent of what was happening. We had no food. So when I was 12 and I was a grade ahead, we I graduated or whatever, finished up 7th, 8th grade. And I couldn't go to the Catholic high school. Like there just wasn't funds for that. And I remember the first time somebody walked up to me, cause I got a scholarship for my 8th grade year at St. Elizabeth. And I remember this one time, this girl, and I remember her name too. Her name was Selena. And she walked up to me. She's like, I heard you got that scholarship because you're poor. And I think it was the first time that, I was a good student. So it was the first time that somebody had pointed something out to me like that. Like, I don't think I realized exactly what our financial situation was because my mom kept it so hidden or
middle school girls, man.
Yeah.
What, was that necessary, Selena?
I know, Selena. I know you. I've seen you on Facebook.
My daughter starts middle school next year. And I mean, I've got her back. I'm just like, get ready though.
But I think it was one of those things where like, I go from this and again, like we just made it happen. My mom just made it work. I just made it work. I never really thought like, oh my God, we're so poor or disadvantaged because I didn't grow up in that mindset. But I understood how to like kind of work hard and start to make things happen.
Yeah.
Like see like opportunities or say like, in my 9th grade year, I ended up going to Skyline, which I love it because all the time I see people from Skyline coming into East Dallas and I'm like, oh, I know you. But
that's a cool school to go to. That's a super like Dallas proper school, right?
It's super. But simultaneously, I was going from a school that had 14 in our classroom to going to a school that had 4,000 people. So it was completely different. Just, going into this giant place, completely unknown, not understanding, how anything works and jumping off of a bus to get there. And then like I had never ridden a bus before. That just wasn't a thing. So I didn't know how to do any of this. And it was quickly like one of those things like you either adapt or you drown. That's it. So I think those times are when I really learned all of my survival skills, specifically in high school. And I remember like the way that I would eat was to eat at friends' houses in the morning or, whenever I could. Like that's how we ate. We didn't have food. And that was one thing that, again, like my mom, she did her best, but for some reason, like she didn't qualify. I don't know how it was for any kind of government assistance or anything like that. Or I'm not really sure what the story is on that, but we never had it. And so my way of even just eating for survival, was through friends and relationships that I had. And so I think that there's something really critical that I learned because my family was all entrepreneurs. They were all doing really well, and they had no idea that we were going through this.
Really?
And I had, this one uncle that he always looked out for me, and he still does. And he lives in San Antonio. He's my dad's younger brother, and he always looked out for me. So when it was time for me to go to college, and I had gotten, because of that scholarship in Catholic school, and because I had that Catholic school upbringing, I had this scholarship to go into Duke University, Catholic University. And I remember like my dad, he's kind of a jerk. He calls him and he's like, oh, I don't understand. Like, why can't you just go to Texas? And so I applied to Texas because he's like, well, I don't have the money to pay for that. And, your mom can't pay for it. Like, I don't know how you think we're going to pay for any of this. And I let it go because I didn't know any better. My parents hadn't been to college. I didn't have anybody in my real immediate family that had been to college that could advise any like, oh, well, this is how you do this. This is how this works. This is how you contact the school and get financial aid and do all these things. I didn't have any of that. Well, I had this friend who was a senior, also with me. His name was Leo, and he was like, I've got somebody from University of Texas I think you should meet. Like, he's kind of helping me like go through the process of getting into to UT and do all that stuff. And so that guy, his name was Robbie Ojeda. He came in and he was the kind of like a recruiter, and he helped me get into UT.
Wow. This is during your senior year.
This is during my senior
school.
year. And so I ended up going from high school 2 weeks later into college. There was no break. So I went, the funny part is my mom and I were in a fight that week. And so she literally packed up her car with all of my stuff, took me to Austin, unloaded it on the sidewalk and drove away. It was so hilarious.
And you got a scholarship to UT?
No, I didn't get any scholarships.
You just got into UT.
I just got in.
Showed up
with a bunch of financial aid paperwork, figured out the loans, figured out how to live in an apartment.
You're doing this all on your own?
All on my own. With Robbie's help. And figured out how to live in an apartment, how to turn electricity on. Like, I didn't know anything. And just had to freaking survive. And so I go, again, from being in this high school to now being in this college with 50,000 people or however many people were there, and just figuring it out.
Wow.
Step by step, no knowledge. I didn't even know how to pick a major. I didn't know anything.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know anything, and I had parents there forcing me to go to college, but you still, I mean, I remember just how overwhelming it was, because I went to school on the East Coast. So I left Dallas, where I lived, in the same neighborhood in Lakewood my whole life, and then was in Providence, Rhode Island. Didn't know anyone. At an Ivy League school after I've been at Woodrow, and I got in for playing football. I did not feel like I belonged there. And I remember vividly. And now I'm thinking about your mom. She's at that age, she is becoming a mom.
Yeah.
And that's
for sure.
That is, that first step into adult life is scary.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. When I went to school, she was 36.
Yeah.
When I went to college.
That's wild. And, and I love hearing that about the Robbie guy and your friend, plugging you in. That is the universe at work. And I've heard this story from so many different people on this podcast. You're kind of stuck in this corner, but you're thinking, and you are you have this goal and this plan. I want to do this. I don't know how I'm going to get there. And then it's here's someone to help. And I think that happens to everyone all the time. And it's are you paying attention when these things happen and these opportunities present themselves to you to take advantage of it? Or are you just going to say no, that's crazy. I would never get into UT, so I'm not even going to talk to this guy. And I think that's what a lot of people wind up doing, is passing on these opportunities that present themselves to you.
Well, and I think now what we would call that, now that I'm 50, I go oh, I was relationship building. Oh, I was using my network.
Yeah.
There's a network of people now that you can tap into that can help get you what it is that you're looking for. Back then I didn't have those kind of words. Again, I feel I went through my first 4 years of UT. I was there for 5 years. I went through the first 4 years, completely wandering around. I had no idea what I was doing. I had, I was going to classes and picking classes, and I didn't know what I was doing. Finally, but I was working my way through. I didn't have a car, but I'd figure out how to work and get some,
What were you doing?
When I first worked, I had retail jobs before. I had to work in high school too. And the coolest job that I ever had was at Sound Warehouse in Oak Cliff, back there on Polk and 67. And I loved that freaking job. I loved working in that record store. I loved meeting the artists that came in and just kind of the whole thing and chit-chatting with people. But again, I didn't really know what I was good at. And I think back then in high school, I was kind of quiet. I was still kind of that, only kid, probably getting into trouble with things and doing whatever. But when I got to college, I felt like I was the same kid, right? Still kind of quiet. You're kind of fumbling your way. You're meeting some friends here and there. But my mom wasn't a real social person. So I was never in things oh, you're supposed to have thousands of friends and do all this stuff and go to camps. I never did any of that stuff. I never got to go to Girl Scouts. And again, this isn't because my mom couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
Period. I couldn't be on teams. She didn't have another way to get me home if I was at a soccer practice. I couldn't do those types of things. So I didn't have a repertoire, a resume that said, oh, you've earned this and this and this, and you're on this. I didn't have any of those things. I didn't have extracurriculars because we couldn't afford it. And so when I go to college and I don't know anything about anything, I happen to be just kind of like walking around in the mall there, and I see all these tables set up and they're for clubs, right? So I walk up to this one club and they were kind of like, oh, you should join our club. So I end up joining this club, and it turns out to be this Navy Marine, like ROTC, little sister group. Meaning like you kind of go and you help like this ROTC group, like with all of their events and do all this stuff. And then you sort of get this little social group. And so I joined that. And then one of my very best friends, we're still friends today. She was in that group. And so then we just got into like debauchery. Nobody can drink like Navy Marine or ROTC guys. So I went from being this really quiet kid that kind of didn't know anything to suddenly being in this thing, and then like just pummeling through school, like just getting by, just barely doing
and
this.
Partying a lot.
And at the time I was a marine biology major. And let me tell you, when I took biology 3 times, I was like, okay, I can't do this. I got to pick something different. So I get to year 4, I have like something like some crazy number, 120 credits, and I wasn't anywhere near graduating. So I remember walking in to the liberal arts college, and I was like, I've got to graduate. What can I get? Like, what can I, and they look at all my credits and they're like, oh, well, if you do go one more semester and maybe like a summer session, we can get you out of here with a liberal arts degree. And I was like, perfect. That's what I got to do. So I get through UT, and I'm still not 22 yet, because remember, I started school a year early. So I started UT at 17 also.
So wait, did you only go to high school for 3 years?
No, I skipped kindergarten. So I went right into first grade. So I was ahead the whole time.
Got it.
But so I graduate from UT finally. And I'm still like, I had just turned 21. And by that time I was taking my last couple classes. I was working on 6th Street. I had already had like my fun retail sales jobs. And I understood that I was good in the people space. Talking to people, doing things, like just being wild. What
were you doing on 6th Street?
Bartending.
Okay.
Yeah. So as bartending.
Great job to have.
Yeah. Bartending. I was working as a hostess at La Zona Rosa, which was one of the biggest music venues in Austin at the time. It's kind of where South by Southwest started. I was waitressing and like cocktailing in bars on 6th Street. And it was one of those times where, again, I think about it like when I go through that progression of being 12 and kind of like being this quiet only kid who's like super great at school, and then getting into high school and then being super like crazy. This transition was giant, and I was just lost in there, just trying to like survive, just trying to eat, and then getting out of high school and going right into college, again, not knowing how to be an adult or do any of those things, never having any instruction on or any guidance on nothing. And then getting through UT and then figuring out how to sort of people my way into getting out of there. And then I got home and I got married. So I never, at 22.
Who did you marry?
I married somebody that I worked with on 6th Street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just like, boom, let's go.
It was kind of a dare.
It was a dare.
We laugh about it today. Like, I was telling the story just recently. This is my son's dad. And we were sitting there in the bar, and I was like, hey, I'm moving back to Dallas. And he was like, wouldn't it be funny if I moved with you? And I was like, yeah, that'd be so funny. And then he did. And then when he did and he got here, we were like washing my car one day, and this is just weeks later. And he was like, wouldn't it be funny if we like went to Vegas and got married? And I was like, that would be so funny. And then we did. Like, we literally got in the car, went to James Avery at North Park, bought rings, and got on a plane the next morning and got married the next day.
Wow.
So I think I was never afraid to take a risk.
No doubt.
But I was always in these situations where I was going from extremes, like in my mind, that was normal. I didn't understand that those are major life changes. There are major things that are supposed to be happening here.
Back to Skyline High School, were you like flying under the radar the whole time you were there? I just can't even imagine you. Yeah, because that's what I'm gathering. And I would have thought like in high school you were class president or something. Like, no, not at all.
None of those things. I barely graduated from there. I think my GPA was like a 2.7, which was so ridiculous, or 2.4. It was like, seriously, I barely got out of there. I was just winging it.
That is
in every way.
So interesting. And then, yeah, there's just like these evolutions of you throughout that time. And then you got pregnant, I would assume.
Yeah, a couple of years later.
Shortly after that.
24.
Yeah.
So I think, though, in all of my time, though, when I go back, I was always surrounded by entrepreneurs, though. Even some of my friends, like in high school, one of my closest friends, he was friends with somebody else who had like restaurants in Oak Cliff and in Pleasant Grove they're still out there. And then my family, they were all entrepreneurs. My dad was an entrepreneur. Like everybody had started their own business, and so I think like my dreams of when I was a little kid and saying I'm going to be a surgeon one day, that changed when I had to go into survival mode. I didn't have that guidance or that know-how. I was literally a kid trying to fumble my way through high school without any guidance. And it's not because my mom didn't care. It's because she couldn't. She was at school all day long and then working another job and then working another job. So she was just not available. She was trying to keep a roof over our heads. And so I was fumbling all of this by myself, trying to get through high school, get myself dressed, I needed glasses the whole time. So think about it, trying to pass an algebra class and you can't see the board. My mom always says that's my excuse, but it was true. And my last name was M, so I was in the back of the room all the time. Like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Yeah. Fumbling my way through chemistry at UT with no glasses. But just kind of never thinking about it as like, oh, I'm so disadvantaged. I just thought, oh, this is just how it is. And so I would just figure my way through things and get to the end and then be like, okay, well, like, what's next?
I have horrible vision, and I started wearing glasses in first grade, but I don't remember how long did this go on before they realized. And I have very poor vision. I wear -11 contacts.
Oh my gosh!
And I was like -9 in elementary school.
Yeah,
but I always kind of I always think of the whole vision thing as something that caused me a lot of problems because it slowed me down in kindergarten and first grade. There's no doubt about it. And then I wasn't in the honors classes and I was just slow at school, and like that has a big impact. So you're just living this way through college.
And I remember one particular moment in my senior year, I sat next to the valedictorian. His name was Vanu Ipe. And anybody from Skyline will remember Vanu, class of 91. And I remember he taught me how to make a little lens, like with my finger, so I could see the freaking board. He was like, if you do this, like he knew that I couldn't see the board.
That's why you squint.
That's why I squint. Like, I think I squint as like a. Because
when you squint, you can see better.
Yeah. I have like astigmatism. So I think it like presses your eye down or something and it makes it more clear. But like he knew that. And so it was really funny that it's a memory that sticks out in my mind of somebody kind of reaching out and being like, hey, I see what's happening. Like, how
do you do this now? Like
so you make like a little triangle with your finger, and then when you look through it, it's clear. You go, oh, wow. Could you imagine looking at the freaking board that way?
No.
Exactly. So that didn't work in college. I was just like, I don't know what's happening down there. I'm just going to dip out. So it was a really expensive lesson that I learned and had a lot of credits. But I did finally get out of there. And then that's why, like, when I did write that check for it, it was so gratifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you moved back to Dallas, what was the reasoning and to go back to Dallas?
So at the time, I left Austin the first time in 96. At the time, there were no jobs in Austin. Austin is not the place it was today.
Right.
And so everyone went home. Everyone went home to work.
Yeah.
So that was it.
It was just a college town.
It was a college town.
Yeah.
And there were jobs there, but you didn't know about them. We didn't have the internet. Like I remember this, a few months before I left there in like 95, 96, this one girl came in and she was like, I got my email. And I was like, what are you saying to me? She's like, my email. I was like, how do you spell that? Like, what are you even saying? I don't get it. Like, what do you mean? What does this do? And I was like, she's so weird. Like, what is she even talking about? And think about it. That's like, that rules our life, right?
Oh, yeah. And I was 5 years behind you. And when I showed up to college, that's the first time I heard about email. And I got an email address. And I remember that feeling the exact same way. And my roommate at Brown, like he knew all about the internet already. And like, yeah, like go to Yahoo. Like, what are you talking about, dude? And I mean, I didn't know about any of that. And so, yeah, you're getting out of college when all of that started. And it's not like really even, it was forced upon me because that's how we started communicating right away in college. But I can't even imagine. I mean, I can't imagine someone who's like 30 years old and like all of a sudden this is happening. Like, what is going on right now?
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So I get out of there and, you know, again, like during that time, I think about all the things I had done and all the places I had been and all the people I'd met. And it was really quite remarkable. But again, I think like kind of being in that music venue spot and then in 6th Street, like you see and meet so many people all day long. And so I think I really kind of honed in on how to be a people person. And it wasn't something that I was used to doing because I was that quiet only kid, like probably all the way through high school. And then college just really kind of forced me to be in that. And I, like I mentioned, I had worked some retail jobs and I understood that I was good at sales. I understood that I could make a lot of money, like just by talking to people or just by caring or listening or whatever. And then, you know, that was probably the most valuable skill I learned. I came out of there with a history degree, and a business minor, and I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with that. I had no idea. I was like, I don't even know what this means. So when I got to Dallas, moved back home, and suddenly I am married, and need to find work. I start working for the Museum of Natural History here in Dallas. I was like, cool, I'm going to get to apply my degree. It's in the discipline that I studied because I actually, my discipline is African history. And they were having an African exhibit. I was like, this is perfect. I get to research. I get to do the things. No. I was just the cashier. so
with your new UT
with
degree,
my new UT degree and big student loan payments, I was the cashier. And so I started working for my family. I started working for my dad, and he was primarily absent, you know, a lot of my life. And, you know, I don't blame him. I think that he's dealing with a lot of addictions and things that people do. I know that now. I think at the time I was pretty resentful. But where I am today is I'm like, listen, like, that's great. You're an adult. You can do better. And if you choose not to, that's on you. Like, I don't take responsibility for that anymore. But during the time, like when I would call him like for money in school, and there was times when I was dying in school. I mean, dying, like before I had a car and could work. You know, I was destitute and just, man, we used to have this emergency loan thing that you could get like $150. And between a bunch of us, who's getting it this week? And then we'd figure out how to pay it back. And then somebody else would call. And it was this little phone that you would pick up at UT and call, and you'd get a $150 emergency loan. I was forever on that emergency loan, forever. And then my uncle that I mentioned, he would help, and my grandmother would help, and my mom would help anytime she could. And, but
You're
I got out of there.
constantly hustling though.
Constantly for $1. And I think like, so when I get back to Dallas, you know, I started, I worked there, and then I started working for my family, and, you know, like I said, my dad was an entrepreneur, and my uncle was still, you know, they're all in kind of construction, but they were doing well. They were doing good things. And I was thinking like, you know, I think at some point I'd like to have my own business. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I'm good at, but it'll be something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you worked for the family business, and then when did you leave that, or what was next?
Well, I had to leave that. my dad went to prison for embezzlement from that business. And it was really a hard thing to see what was happening there, but also to kind of get the imprint of that. So I think like something happened to me because remember, I'm still a kid, right? I'm 24. I now have a baby. I've been married for a couple of years and I'm trying to make this living. And I see this thing happening at the place where I'm working.
Did you know this was going, like, did you sense that something was going on like that?
Yes.
And what were you doing there? Like, what was your job?
So I was helping with payroll and some bookkeeping and things like that. So I would see some things and, you know, he was working with this accountant and I didn't know a lot of it because I was really just kind of there part-time while I was working there, but then I was working at the museum and then I kind of knew like I always needed to have a different job, right? Like I needed to be doing something else because there wasn't enough for me to do. And so there was this moment, and it's not something I tell a lot of people about, but it's something that I think says who I am to the core. Who I am to the core is I remember one day being at home and getting a call from one of my dad's business partners. And he said, "Is he stealing money from the company?" And I said, "Yes." And that is how he went to prison.
Oh my gosh.
So again, I don't think I knew to report that, but I knew when somebody asked me about it that the right thing to say was yes. And so the authorities come in and they do this thing and he goes to trial and you know, like it was really hard for me because I had a really standoffish relationship with my dad. Like he was basically only friendly to you when you needed something from you. He was never friendly in a way that was like something happened to him. I don't remember him being like that as a kid, but something happened. I think like when my parents divorced, maybe it's why they divorced. I don't remember. But where he just became this person that was like, "Oh, you're only here to ask me for money." And I was like, "Well, who am I supposed to ask?"
Yeah.
Like, if you can't ask your parents, like, who do you ask? Like, I don't get it. So this is where like my uncle would step in and he was, I always kind of think of him like he was the dad that like he would step in and be my dad when I needed him to, like whether it was for business advice or for money. And so we had this really contentious relationship, but as long as I was doing what he needed me to be doing, he was friendly.
You mentioned addiction. Like, was there alcohol involved?
Gambling. He was a gambling addict.
Yeah.
And so a lot of me, and I think my sister has this too, like we get concerned about ourselves sometimes. We're like, when we see a casino, because we grew up in casinos when we were kids, like when I was before 12, before my parents divorced, like we went on vacations, but we went on vacations to Vegas. So I remember being like an 8 or 9-year-old kid, like roaming around on the strip, like all night. Me and my 12-year-old uncle, they would just hand us $100 bill and we would be on our own in Vegas. Wow. Roaming around all day long. And the next day we'd get another $100 bill and we'd go do it again. And it was like glorious, right? So I think that we get this, there's a little danger. There's a little bit of fearlessness. There's a little bit of like, oh yeah, I've done stuff like this before. So when you're evolving, some of these things aren't that foreign to you, you know, like it wasn't scary to me to go do things because I had been roaming on the streets of Vegas.
Yeah.
So that was a small detail I didn't even remember till now because like I said, like there's some part of my conditioning that is so extreme in some of the things that we did that were just probably not that normal that just were so normal to me. I remember I took a bunch of friends from Catholic school and we went on summer vacation to Vegas and they still talk about it today. They're like, whose parents lets them go to Vegas?
That's right.
So it's, so again, it was kind of one of those things, but the gambling definitely got him in trouble. And, he got a 7-year sentence. And I think served 2 years of it. And he was here in Texas prisons, but I would go visit him and, you know, he was this reformed person and, you know, I'm learning and I'm doing all this stuff. Well, he got out of there and I think all he learned was how to be a better criminal. And now the person that he is in his late 70s is like, it's still sketchy as fuck. like that's the best way that I can explain it. You know, he was forever just that guy. And like I said, I don't remember him being like that when I was a kid. I don't think he was that way, but I think the addiction took over, and then it became an alcohol problem, and then it became who knows what other kind of problems.
Gambling addictions are so bad, and I know people who suffer from gambling addictions, and I talk about addiction on here all the time. You know me, like you knew me when I was like deep in alcohol, and so that kind of getting out of that alerted me to alcohol, and then I just start realizing like it's an energy that can be used towards all kinds of different things, not necessarily alcohol. But the gambling is something that's like this silent, super silent thing. And it just destroys people. Like gambling addicts, you can almost just like see it. Maybe I couldn't when I was drinking and partying all the time, but now that I'm like hyper aware, like everyone's addicted to something. What are you addicted to? But the gambling addicts, it is such a sad thing because it is just, and it takes a physical toll on people too, even if they haven't, I mean, but most of them do, I think, turn to alcohol to deal with it, to deal with the highs and lows and all of that, like to numb themselves. And like, but there's nothing worse than losing when you're gambling. I hate that feeling.
Right.
Winning is amazing, obviously.
Oh yeah.
I used to play blackjack all the time. I'd go to Vegas 5 times a year. I loved to gamble. And then like the last few times that I've gone, as I've like been doing a lot of self work and all of this stuff, and just being more conscious about how certain behaviors make me feel, I noticed that like losing at playing blackjack sucks way worse than like the level of good I feel when I win. Because it's like an insatiable thing. Like when you feel that spike of dopamine when you win, it goes away so fast. But the loss, it's like the reverse spike of suckiness, but it lingers much longer. And so I just kind of like noticed that. And I gambled last time I went to Vegas, but I stopped.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a sneaky thing.
Yeah. It's a sneaky thing. And I think like, I don't have that quality. Luckily. I think if I was addicted to something, I'm addicted to work. That's my addiction.
Yeah.
But I just remember like, to me, that was a really defining moment for me, is this person who I had forever, for decades, been trying to win his approval, and, you know, like all the things that you try to get like that approval from your dad, right? You try to get, you know, his attention, affection, whatever, like you try to be that great daughter. No matter what, the right thing to do was to answer honestly. And I think that was a defining moment for me, like in my adulthood, of who I am, like as a person. I'm always going to try to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Every time, like even when it's terrible, even when it sucks, I got to do the right thing. And that is something that I think I live with daily. Even in the situation that I'm going through now, like I have to do the right thing. You know, when even the person who I was trying to get the most love from did wrong, I turned him in.
Yeah.
Like without even thinking about it. No.
Is he going to listen to this?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
he still doesn't know it?
No.
Oh gosh.
I don't think anybody knows this.
Really?
Yeah. I think I mentioned it to my sister. But it's one of those things where, like, again, you can't be afraid and you can't take responsibility for what someone else did wrong.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. I didn't steal that money, you know? But when somebody asks me if it's being stolen, and I say, yes, I think it is. I didn't have exact proof. I didn't exactly know what was happening, but I had that suspicion that was happening for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what you've got to do.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
It's tough.
Like all of this is like you went through a lot between 12 and 22.
And this is just to where like, I think I'm 24 now. So there was a lot, but I think what ended up happening was a lot of really important people started coming into my life that helped shape me and my career. When I was 24, or actually when I was 22, I started working at ITT Technical Institute here in Garland. And I had my first female boss, and she was like the first female boss lady. Like she told me I was so rough around the edges. Again, like I felt like I was super polished, but I was a kid with no guidance, right? So she came in and she was like, let me just tell you, presentation is everything. How you look, how you dress, how you speak, how you present.
Did you not like dress to the nines back then and all that? Oh, really?
I was poor.
Yeah.
I was broke. So I was dressing like I still worked at a bar on 6th Street, with probably too much showing, but I'm here to make $1, So it's just, she really polished me up in a way that was so critical to everything I do and everything, like the marketing and the things and the refinement that I have, which, there are days where, I like to say that, the South Dallas still comes out in me sometimes, but it's one of those things where like you have to grow up scrappy. And so I can be real fucking scrappy when I need to.
Yeah.
All the way. Like I'll scrap all the way down. And that's something that happened to me last year.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear about it. But yeah. And I mean, like what a great person to come into your life to teach you all of that, because I think you've mastered that, the polished refinement in the business world. I mean, she
taught me how to be. She taught me how to travel. I had never been anywhere except for San Antonio on I-35. I had never, in Vegas, like I had never really gone places. I hadn't flown a lot of places, and I definitely had never been on business trips. And she taught me how to travel. She taught me how to purchase. She helped. That's where I first started kind of like being able to do graphic design and marketing and things like that. I really started to understand like what I was really good at in entertaining and being kind of in that hospitality space, even though at the time I didn't know that's what that was. How are you doing this at ITT Technical Institute in Garland? Like, I'm telling you, I started out there as a financial aid administrator, and where I met one of my very best friends. Like, we're still best friends. She's one of my besties today. But I changed into this job that was student services coordinator, and I was doing student orientations. That was our big event. So I had to help plan the big event, throw the big event, end the big event, and like get to the next quarter and do it for the next group of students. And then so hiring all the vendors and getting all this stuff. No, we were the vendor. Okay, you were the vendor. So again, like doing it from the base, like this is how we entertain, this is how we throw a party, this is how we put up a food spread, this is how we make this event happen, these are the invitations and these are the things we need, and these are the bags and the shirts and all the things that were involved in the coordination of those student events was my responsibility. Yeah. And I learned from the very best. This is a woman who went on to be the president of the one of the culinary schools here in Dallas, before she retired. And I mean, she's just a lady who loves food. She taught me my love for food. She taught me my love for cooking, like really kind of honed in. I kind of knew that I had those things before, but again, I'm eating from people's homes. I can't go fine dining anywhere, but she helped hone me in on those things that I really love today that I find like great zen in. I love cooking. Like that's one of the things, like, besides being a race car driver, I would be, a trained chef. Like I would just understand how to do it. But what I do instead is I try to go learn from all the fancy chefs out there, right? Or learn while I'm traveling from women in Oaxaca that are, cooking like old school comals and grinding the corn, and we eat that fresh tortilla. Like I really just love that. And I learned a lot of that from her. And again, it's not because my mom she couldn't teach me those things. She had never done anything like that. Right. She's just like surviving and trying to make sure the lights are on. Exactly. And at a young age.
At a super young age. Yeah. And it's tough you can't really learn anything in this world without experiential learning or having someone who has the experiential learning teach you.
Right. And you certainly can't learn it if you're in school and work all day. You don't learn those types of things.
Right. Wow. So, and then you were doing that and just like, were you feeling like this is good? I've found something I'm really good at, and you're starting to discover that you're mid-20s now.
Yeah, I was probably 25. Her and my friend, they actually gave me Nick's baby shower. Like that's how long I've known them, 27 years.
Yeah.
And so I was the one thing that we were always sticking on was we didn't get paid very much to do it. And I was starting to feel that little edge like, oh, I've got to make some more money. Like we've got a growing family and, so I ended up taking a sales position at a place where I could really kind of focus in on graphic design and marketing. Right. And at the time, I think it's actually still there. It was like the Fast Signs that was over there on Meadow and Walnut Hill, like right in 75. Like there's a Fast Signs there. And
we made a Slick 57 banner there one time.
Yeah. And what's really funny is people think like, oh, it's a sign shop. But really what you're doing is consulting people on how to market better. Right. And so I think I learned like a real strategic blend of, again, talking to different types of clients from all over the place and really understanding like how to present and market and show things like from a sign perspective, like directional signs and all those little things that mattered. And I remember we were doing signs for the state fair and for City of Frisco and all these places. But I had this client that kept coming in and he was like, I want you to put this thing on the wall and it's like the world. And, my company's going all over the world. And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. And I went to his office, which was right across the street from where we were, right across 75. And I look and I take the measurements and we drop this big thing and people are like, we've never done something like this before. And I was like, I don't know. He wants to pay for it. Let's do it. And at the end of that, like I was just good at following up with him because I knew it was a big sale. And I don't even think I made commission, but I just knew it was a big sale and I wanted to have that because I was like, ooh, I'm here to do it. And he comes over and he goes, I think you should come work for me. And I said, oh, what do you do? And he was like, we make the match. And I was like, you make the match. Okay. Like, I don't really know what this is. He was like, come talk to me in my office. And I go across and he has this big, beautiful office and, it's corner, dark, like leather couches and stuff. And he's like, I want you to be on my team. And, like, I'm going to pay you $40,000 base and then you can make commission. And I was like, oh shit, like that's way more than I was making for a base with a commission. I mean, he's like, you'll get benefits and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I haven't had benefits. Like it was an uptick. I'm in. And I was like, I'm in. I'm going to make the match. I did not know what the hell he was talking about. I still had no idea what I was going to be doing. And I just took the jump and said, okay, I'll start Monday. So I put in my notice and I go start this job. And even the first day I was like, we're making the match. Don't know what that means. And then he was like, yeah, we take like, and I was like, wait a minute. So what you're saying is you have hospitals that need workers and you have workers that need jobs. We're making the match. We find the worker and we put him in a job. I got it. And the first week I was there, I did like 10 of those. And they were like, holy shit. The highest salesperson prior to me being there was doing about $8,000 a week in sales. And I was good at it. And I was good at making the match. And I had like my little spreadsheet and I was just like, it wasn't a spreadsheet, it was like a grid. And I was just checking them off. Boom, 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 boom. I'm firing off contracts. Boom, 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 boom. And they're coming back in. Boom, boom, boom. And I had taken, and I was at 40,000 a week. So everyone who was at 8 suddenly got to 20, 26. When you have your ringer that comes in and raises the bar.
There's nothing better than having a ringer like in your presence because, yes. But you were the ringer.
I was the ringer.
Yeah.
And,
you were just a natural.
I was a natural at it.
And someone gave you a commission job with no ceiling.
With no ceiling.
You just were like, yes. I'm going to grip it and rip it. and match it.
And we took that company, and I say we because it was a group of us. We were doing 800,000 a year. We took it to 17 million in 1 year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that was
what a good hire.
That was a medical staffing company. But what ended up happening is then after that, they got in a couple more ringers, and those ringers were new grads from Texas Tech, and they were popping up. Texas
Tech people are like sales titans in the world. They really are. I've had so many tech people on here. I spoke to the real estate school out there, and I told them when I was there, like, Texas Tech people. And I've heard from my friends that attended tech that because they're viewed as like, at least in their minds, they don't think they're taken as seriously as UT, A&M, TCU, SMU, and then it's tech. And because of that, there's this like chip on their shoulder, like, watch this. Yeah. We're going to go kick everyone's ass.
I'm telling you, it's something that I need to like put in my pocket and remember, because every person I know from Texas Tech is relentless in sales.
Oh, yeah.
Relentless.
I agree.
And, yes.
Lubbock water or something.
Man, it's windy up there. But it's one of those things where like I remember I was standing at the fax machine, and this is back when we were faxing contracts. So man, you'd hear that fax come in with that signature, and you're like, yeah, cha-ching. Yeah. So my manager came up to me and he said, I had this crazy dream. I had this dream that me and you and Christy started our own company. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was making $100,000. I was happy. I was traveling. I was doing all the things I did not care. I was like, that sounds amazing. Well, I go on a business trip a couple weeks later with Christy, and she says, what did you think about Patrick's dream? And I was like, I'm in. Like, we can do that. Like, I'm in. What is it going to take? And so she was like, well, let's talk to a couple other people. Let's kind of see what we think. And then let's write a business plan. And so we ended up grabbing the 2 Texas Tech guys. And the 5 of us started writing our plan to leave that company. And there were reasons, like, we were all super happy there. Like, you couldn't make anybody happier. And this guy would take us to like games, and he would come in and say, like, we've got this thing of company events and all this stuff. But he did keep coming in and saying, I could hire Harvard grads for less than I'm paying you guys, because we were killing it on commission.
Yeah.
And he kept saying that, and then he would like start like just kind of like lashing out at us, like in front of people, or cutting our pay. And on the 4th pay cut, we wrote our business plan. And I went out and found a bank that would back us. And I went to a lot of places, but I found the bank that would back us. I ended up quitting first because our boss got in my face, and I still had a little South Dallas in me. And I was like, oh, hell no, that is not happening today. And I quit on a Post-it note and popped it on the back of my seat and walked out. And I was like, I will find the funding, because we couldn't find a bank that would fund us. And we had this brilliant business plan. And I was like, I'll do it. I will dedicate this. And so my mom, my husband was working at the time, and my mom helped finance a little bit of that so I could go do it. And I found the bank that would give us the green light. And so I helped set up the office. I got the office in downtown Dallas. We got the furniture in. We put in the electricity. We did all the things, and I had it rolling. So when we got the green light and we did all of this, each one of us put in $25,000, and I got mine from my mom. After all of that survival, she put up her house and refinanced it to give me the $25,000 to start Platinum Select.
Wow.
And I started that company with those 4 partners, the Patrick, Christy, and the 2 guys from Texas Tech. And when we got the green light on the loan, I called them, and they all pulled their resignation letters out of their desks, set it up, and walked out. And they came right over, and we did our first deal an hour later. And we did from July 18th, which was our anniversary recently, which is also the day that I got all my permits and everything cleared at the new distillery in East Dallas. But we did 2.5 million the first 6 months. The next year we did 10 million. The next year we did 15. The next year we did 24, 36, and then 52. And so in that timeline, we had done $220 million of sales. We had staffed 10,000 positions. We had 700 employees. It was like 100 inside and about 600 outside.
That is like about to make me cry.
Yeah.
Like that's so amazing. Like with the whole rest of the story, it's like, oh my God, like good job.
Yeah. And then in 2006, we were like best place to work in Dallas, DFW. We were the fastest growing staffing company in America. And then in 2008, we sold it for $30-something million. And that was when I started my spiral. When a
work addict loses the work, that can sometimes be like, what do I do now?
It was the one thing that I identified with. When people, like my son, he actually thought for a while that my last name was Platinum Select because he would hear me on the phone, like dialing for dollars. That's what we called
Stephanie
it.
At Platinum Select.
This is Stephanie at Platinum Select. This is Stephanie at Platinum Select. Hello, this is Stephanie at Platinum Select. He thought that was my last name. So so it was a whirlwind. And so I sold that company when I was 35 and I was a millionaire.
Yeah. You got a Ferrari.
And I got a Ferrari and a rock star husband and spiraled out of control.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ferrari.
And Niagara drinking water.
That is absolutely wild and amazing. And I didn't know any of that, really.
Yeah.
I knew that you had a big company and you sold it, but just didn't ever think about it. You know, I just went to this retreat last weekend with Hillwood, and it's owned by Ross Perot Jr. Mm-hmm. And they do a fireside chat, and he was talking about his life growing up. And you would think Ross Perot is like one of these like richest people alive when we were growing up. But he wasn't. When Ross Perot Jr. was born, like they were not wealthy. They were living in a 2-bedroom house, and he got a job at IBM, Ross Perot Sr., selling computers, and basically like sold his quota in January. And then they said, well, he goes, I need more computers to sell. They're like, well, if we give you more computers to sell, you'll make more money than the president of the company. And he quit and started EDS. Yeah. And that was basically why, because these ceilings, like they put a ceiling on this like amazing salesperson. And it sounds like that's really what happened to you guys, is like this not wanting to give the salespeople, like pay them what they deserve. What they earn, yeah, and what they're earning. And that's a big problem, I think, in corporate America. Something I love about being a commercial real estate broker is we just work 100% commission. And I mean, it's just, that's it. And we can make as much as we want. There is no ceiling. And it's a great business because of that. And I've been doing it for 20 years. We don't even make a base or anything. It's just like you go make commissions and you can make as much as you want. And as a owner of a company, like if I were ever to own my own company, that would always be like, I want people to make as much money as possible. And the value of salespeople is the backbone really of every organization.
Absolutely.
The Apple iPhone, great technology, but Steve Jobs is the ultimate sales guy, and or was. And the sales is a backbone of really everything that we do in life. And I was mentored by Grant Cardone, and he teaches that a lot. Like, you're always selling. Like, I mean, theoretically, like I had to sell Logan to come here and do my video. I had to sell you to come here and do the podcast. Like, you know, I have to, my children, they're like the ultimate people I have to sell to keep them happy. And Gina, my ex-wife, you know, like you're always doing it. Anyway, that is so awesome. So yeah, we kind of like hit on that. like your early midlife crisis, or I don't know. I've had a midlife crisis around 35, I think. I think that's normal.
Yeah. And I think it was one of those things where like, I gave you a really condensed version of an 8-year career, but what I did during that job was I was the chief marketing officer. That was my role because that was what I was best at. I was always terrible at managing people. Which is very weird, but because I have such a high standard for myself, I am very like a micromanaging bitch ass. Like that's just like, you don't want to deal with me because especially then who I was at that point, I just didn't have patience for people. I didn't have patience. Like I was like, I don't understand. Like, why don't you get it? Like, let's get on with it. Like I didn't have management skills. But I had sales skills and I knew I could do it. Why can't you do it? Like that was kind of my way. And so I was terrible at managing people, but I was great at managing campaigns. And really like I never had formal training in marketing or anything like that or design, but I was in that capacity where I was still kind of good at it. And then I could take the business plan and apply it to places and I could take, and do these fabulous, again, I go back. A lot of the marketing and sales I was doing was hospitality. I was going to all the trade shows, talking in front of people, always trying to sell, being that person taking people to St. Louis Blues games and just entertaining all the time to keep our client relationships great.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I think that I learned, not only from my friend, my very dear high school friend who works at Sewell, and he's been there for forever. But from Platinum Select is our thing was our customer service excellence could not be beat.
Yeah.
We were excellent at that. And we considered all of our platform of customers we were a 3-legged stool, right? We had our service that we offered. We had our employees. And then we had kind of like our leadership, right? So these 3 things, if any of them were missing, like we were out of balance, right? We always treated our employees like customers, right? So man, we had those really great incentives. We took them everywhere. We treated them like friends and family. And that was important because that's how we won those awards. People today that I talk to, they still say like, man, some of my best friends I made at that company, like they were in my wedding. I'm married to them. Like some people got married. People had babies from this company,
Would you do sales trips? Like,
we did all of that. We sent people to Cancun. Like we sent our top guys were making $400,000.
Yeah.
Medical staffing, like they were killing it. And so it was one of those things. We had massage chairs in the lounges. We had places where you could it was a fantastic company. And so I think I've always tried to carry that with me forward. Like that's the one thing I learned. But then when I sold the company, and I think I was dealing with some burnout, and also I was just like personally dissatisfied with my life. I was dealing with some burnout, so I chose to exit the company when we sold. And then I completely had some time to like kind of think, and I had my daughter, and I was in a terrible relationship then too. Like I've been historically bad at picking partners. But outside of that, I think I was just like burnout. And so I started these other projects, and I had this yoga studio, and it was great and, fun, and, stuff would come, they say that things end either by choice or by death, right? Your company, either you choose to close it or it dies. Some of them I chose to close and move on. But when I sell this company, and my whole identity goes away with it. I was this rock star salesperson. I was the chief marketing officer, vice president of this company. And now I'm just me, and I have nothing to do all day long.
Yeah. That had to have been a shock
to
the system. And so during this time, you're doing the yoga studio, and you're LaGrange basically, and followed after that.
Yeah.
And LaGrange, for those that don't know, is a bar in Deep Ellum that Stephanie and Rob and Scott Beggs, like who all was involved there?
Oh gosh. Well, it was my company. Yeah. Like I owned it fully. And then in retrospect, I don't love doing things that way, but I understand why things have to happen that way. But
this is before Deep Ellum resurgence.
It was in 2009, so Trees was about to reopen.
Yeah.
And they hadn't quite reopened yet. And so I saw that there was some buzz down there, and my son had been in this rock school called Sounds, which he still, takes part in. And I love those guys still. But he was doing these little shows at Club Dada, and I heard it was up for sale. And so I was like, oh, that could be cool. Like this could be a great project. I was bartender before. I've been in hospitality, sort of. Like
I worked at La Zona Rosa.
I worked at La Zona Rosa back in the day, like all those things. And I go, I can do this. Like, this isn't expensive. Well, I pulled up my car and I saw a different place for lease instead, because they kind of had like a deal going and there was something happening over there. So I pulled up another vacant spot that used to be the Deep Ellum Cafe.
Yeah.
And, the realtor happened to be right across the street. So she walked over, super lovely lady, and she showed me this place, and she's like, it's like $2,000 a month. And I was like, sold, done. And I poured a bunch of money into that place and did it all wrong because, again, like, remember, you have to follow my whole history. Like, I have no idea how to manage money. Nobody has taught me how to invest. No one has taught me how to finance a new construction build. I'm just financing it from my pocket. Like, I was leasing the place. I didn't own the building. Like, why would you put any money with no tenant improvement into a space? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have some of those, like, things, some tools in my tool belt that I have today. And so I had a lot of money in the bank, and I had $1 million line of credit, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just do this.
And you also have in your head, the one company you started, you sold for $30 million, and you're like invincible kind of. I'm sure like that was going on, right?
You know what? There is this weird thing that happened to me, and I can pinpoint it when it happened. And after I sold the company, like I mentioned, I got sued 3 times in a row. And I thought that I was unhireable. I thought since I had been, and there's a little bit of chatter out there. Oh, if you've owned your own company, like you're untouchable, like nobody wants to hire you. That was kind of like out there, I think, in the workplace at that time. I don't think that's the case today. But people are like, oh, you're not going to be a long-term employee because you've had your own thing. Like, you're going to take off. And so for some reason, I had it in my head that I was unhireable. And the only way to get revenue or income coming back in was to start something new.
Yeah.
And so I definitely didn't think I was invincible. I thought I was unhireable.
That's interesting.
And it drove me into starting that project. And then I thought, oh, well, we'll do it like this and this and this. And then when you actually get into that kind of field, you understand like, oh, that's not how this works at all.
Yeah.
And I had never been in the alcohol industry before. And so I didn't even understand like some of the nuances of how to like, I don't want to say manipulate the system, but how to work the system. Like, I didn't have those long time industry contacts here in Dallas, and I didn't have those distributor contacts and the brand contacts. I didn't understand how that works. And so I had this beautiful place that people loved. I mean, I can't tell you the weddings that came out of there and the kids and the people that I met. And
your wedding.
Yeah. One of them. And all of the things that happened in that place that people remember that go like, damn, that was a good place.
Boys Named Sue, New Year's Eve.
Yes. Openers, right?
I mean, like we had some really great shoys there.
Yeah. The JC experience. The JC experience is one of my favorite things. And I think all of those things, like they really helped my daughter, and my son, like see the world. Like my son is still a musician today.
Yeah.
Like he's still like, that's his career. My daughter, she's just seen so many different types of things just from being in that environment, that she's resilient. Same thing. Like she took off to New York to go work this really hard job. But like they're go-getters, and they understand how to twist and turn and adapt, in any scenario. So we learned so much from doing that. Simultaneously, like it was draining everything I had, like my time, my money, like all the things. It just wasn't profitable. And I knew that there was going to come to a point where I was going to have to choose to close it, right? By choice or by death, things end. So it was a little bit of both. I couldn't upkeep the cost of running it anymore. And I had that same desire to want to treat our employees like kings and treat the bands that came in like kings. And so I was just doling out money to make sure everybody was taken care of. And I was going bankrupt doing it. So I kind of had also started dabbling, like now that I kind of knew some people, I was dabbling in doing some other events and things like around Dallas, and started kind of like tapping back into Oak Cliff, where I'd grown up. Like, even though I'd lived my adult life in East Dallas, I was, still from Oak Cliff. And so I started working a little bit with Jason and Andrew down there, and Gary Buckner, and like all the guys that had started, this kind of resurgence of east of Oak Cliff. And we kind of took that into West Dallas and started, at the Belmont Hotel. And, I helped change the law for the city of Dallas to allow trailers to be eateries. So the food parks and everything that exists today is because we changed the law back then in 2012.
Because Austin had that going on.
Austin had that going.
Dallas didn't have it.
Yeah. You couldn't do it here.
It was such a cool thing.
Yeah.
Like, you go to Austin, you go to the
trailer parks. Yeah. It was like a big thing. So I had the first trailer here in Dallas that was legal. But it was because I changed that law. And so
what was the trailer?
It was a LaGrange trailer, and we did shaved ice with rum in it. And we served it with rum. So it's always funny. Like, I can see kind of like the little breadcrumbs that sort of like throughout my life, they took me to the next place. And, I ended up having kind of like a family crisis. Like, I was working so hard and so much that I didn't realize like my own son was having like a lot of problems. And so I had this tiny window open where I was like, you can drop everything you have. You can make the choice, drop it, and move to Austin, get him close to his dad. You have two parents now helping to parent him, or you can continue to let this happen. What's going on? I closed LaGrange and I closed that trailer because actually the trailer park was being purchased. So that one kind of had to close. I was doing some work with the Kessler, and I had just, when you're a kid in Oak Cliff, you grow up hoping one day that you will live in Kessler Park or Stevens Park. And I had just found a house on Stevens Park on the golf course, glorious mid-century modern from the original owner. I had just bought it, and I had this crisis happen.
Is that you moved from Patrick to there? I
was moving. Okay. I had sold my Patrick house to move to Stevens Park because I was going to be in Oak Cliff now. And in a 3-day period, I sold or gave away everything I had and moved to Austin.
Wow.
But it was the right thing to do because none of that mattered. None of it mattered.
Is that you sold the Ferrari?
I sold everything.
Yeah.
I don't think I had that then.
Of it?
I don't think I had that then. I had already gotten rid of that thing. But it was the right thing to do. And so all of my friends, like my friends from Four Corners Brewing and Gary over at Stash and everyone, like they all took my stuff. Kim from Double Wide, like everyone either bought something or they just got it. Like, here, it's yours. Take it. I moved to Austin, and when I moved, I was mad at Dallas. I felt like, my son was getting attacked at school, and I was pissed off.
Where was he in school?
He was at the tag school here. Okay. And there was just some stuff going on there that was just not good for him. So I was pissed off at that. I was mad at the LaGrange thing because I had made this deal, and I felt like the deal collapsed, and it ruined one of my favorite friendships. Really? And of all of the things, like, I didn't care about the money. I cared about that friendship. And so I still talk about that to this day. I'm like, that was the one thing. So I was just mad. I was feeling attacked from every place. And so I just moved to Austin. I was like, oh God, I finally have gotten away. And I'm here in Austin. I'll figure out what I'm going to do. I've got a little bit of money left. I sold my house in Stevens Park. I never lived in it one day. And I moved, and very quickly the spiral continued. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do with my days. I didn't know what I was going to do for work. I tried to go back to work twice as a director of operations for one place. And then as a recruiter, I was like, I'll get back into recruiting. And I just could not sit at a desk and ask for an extra 30 minutes off for lunch.
This is why you really were unhireable, because I
really was unhireable. It was true. Yeah,
I would be unhireable in corporate America today. I could not do it
because
I've said it many times. Like there's no amount of money that if I would have to go like to an office and work 8 to 5 every day. Like I don't think I would rather go wait tables or something.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things where like I could work 12 hours. I'll work a 12-hour day, but I need to work it on my terms.
Yep, that's right. Like how you want to do it. Yeah, for sure. I have no problem with the work, but being told how to work, it's not possible to do anymore.
No,
it never really was.
Yeah, it never really was. That's not how I was working in the first place. So 18 months goes by and I am just like reeling and I'm just like, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And it was my birthday. I forget what birthday it was, but I had gone out to the hill country for the first time and I see this, oh shit, we have a wine country. Like hell, I've been going to California. Like we have wine here. I didn't know this. Like, this is beautiful. It was just an hour from Austin. And so I see this for the first time and I was like, maybe I could get into wineries. I don't know. It's beautiful hill country. I can do something like this.
Luckenbach area, Fredericksburg,
like out there. And I come back home and I just couldn't figure out what to do. And Rob, I was still married to Rob at the time and I couldn't rely on him for income for sure. And that's not a shot. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
So I go to, one day I'm at Central Market on North Lamar day drinking. Like I'm sitting there eating lunch with a glass of wine and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't work. I've got to figure something out soon. And I'm flipping through this magazine and I see Ben Kelly in there and he's a winemaker that I knew from Deep Ellum. Like we were there during the same time. And I message him because the article is about him moving to the hill country. I was like, oh, I know somebody. So I messaged him and he was like, yeah, come on out. Like I'm about to open the winery. And I go out there for the first time. And after I closed LaGrange, I told myself I will never be in that industry again. I will never be in alcohol in that way. And so I get out there and we're talking and reminiscing and just kind of catching up because I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And he mentions the rum project to me. And like, I was like, that's it. That's the one. I said, when you determine if you're serious about this, please consider me as an investor for the rum company. And he was like, no, I've already got a partner. We've been working on it for like 5 years or what. I don't know how long they said, but it was a while. And he was like, we just been looking for a space and the right place hasn't come up. And I was like, all right, that's cool, but keep me in mind, because I'm persistent, right? And a couple of weeks goes by and he calls me and he was like, hey, I was like, hey, Ben, is it rum time? And he was like, no, I just wanted to see if you could watch my dog. And I was like, okay. And he calls a couple of weeks later and I was like, is it rum time? And he goes, oh, no, I was just calling to see, could you watch the winery? I'm going, skiing. And I was like, yeah, definitely. And a couple of months goes by and he calls and I was like, hey, Ben, what's going on? And he goes, it's rum time. Do you want the spot? And I said, yes. And I wrote a check for $30,000 and we started that distillery in as High Rum because we were in High, Texas for $61,000. So it was very different. It was very rural. We were going to be a craft distillery that was open and, on the wine road and doing all these things.
If you don't mind me asking, what did you invest into LaGrange? Like if for startup cost, like if this is $60K, then like what does that cost to open a bar in Deep Ellum that you have to build out and all of that?
I think it was somewhere around $350,000 was the startup. I initially wanted it to be 150 and it was like 3 times more.
Yeah.
A lot of it was due to city stuff and probably again, not really understanding how to navigate the city at that time. How Deep Ellum was in need of a lot of repairs just in general. I think it's still going through those phases. I see it under construction today. And Platinum Select, we had started with $125,000 and we had a $450,000 line of credit that we had, like a loan, an SBA loan.
That's what you did with the bank that you
That's what we did with the bank.
Yeah.
And then we ended up with a $2 million revolving line of credit. And that's how we funded our payrolls. So I was thinking like, oh man, like this isn't very much money, right. Like in the grand scheme of things. And so that's how we started. And at the time I was still like, I was running out of money. like for sure, after being sued and just losing, I always tell people I lost $2 million at LaGrange. That's not actually true, but that's what I have in my mind.
Things like that.
It got very convoluted.
It always gets either in my mind that number would probably go lower as time goes by. Like I'd be like, oh yeah, I only lost 500, but
I don't think,
my bench press from high school when I played football has gone up 50 pounds.
Yeah. It's definitely like, all I can tell you is I am still using up the loss on my tax return.
Oh, yeah.
And it has been 10 years, 11 years.
Did you have a 401k or anything like that, or a pension? And did you invest any money when you No.
Because, here's why. When I sold the company, this bank from Dallas comes in and says, we're going to help you manage your wealth. And we were like, oh, great. It was UBS, one of the biggest banks in the world, a Swiss bank, right? And they come in and they say, we're going to manage your money for you. And that seemed great until suddenly I open my account and there's dashes in it. There's no balance. There's just dashes because they had invested our money in Lehman Brothers. And even worse, they knew Lehman Brothers was going down. So I did sue them and I did recover something, but it was all happening simultaneously. Again, the stories that I could tell you of the times that I've almost died or the times that I've had to file a lemon law against Jeep Chrysler, or I had to do this or I had to do that. They're endless, but I've always done it. And I've always said I wasn't at fault here. And it's a little bit of what's happening in my life today. I wasn't at fault for last year. I wasn't at fault. And so somebody needs to make that correct.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that happened is my attorney made a lot of money, but I had this idea, I got to recover that money, and I didn't know how to do it. So I Googled online, or we didn't have Google, I think then, but I looked up online and found this attorney that had sued UBS because they knew that Lehman Brothers was going down and they were selling off that stock to get rid of it. And I called him and he took the case.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want to invest anymore. I only had cash. I was like the lady with money in my mattress.
You're not trusting, one of my last guests, his dad lost his arm because potentially medical malpractice and was scared of doctors the rest of his life. It's you go to UBS, this huge bank, and they lose all of your hard-earned money. It's you stop trusting in that system.
And not only that, but that is what happens with somebody who's not a savvy investor.
Right.
When you come from a family or a legacy of people who understand how to invest, or even an industry of that, you know that there's losses. When you come from a place where I came from, a place of surviving, and you lose something, you hoard it, which continues that lack, right? It continues the lack mentality. And so you're starting to hoard, and and then before you know it, you're losing it faster than you can hoard it, because that's part of that mindset. Yeah. Yeah.
So true. And we were talking about that with the house earlier, but it's all of this stuff that we talk about, these energetic things and the way the human mind operates. And when you start worrying about money, it's the worst thing you can do when you're low on money.
Yeah.
And I've been there a million times.
Oh yeah.
And that I'm reading The Secret right now.
Ooh.
I just reread it. I read it again for the first time in a while, and now I'm reading it to my kids at bedtime. And that's a great book. It's a really short and sweet book on all of this stuff we're talking about, the laws of attraction and just how to do these things. And the human mind is so powerful. And if you're not watching out what it's doing, which is what the majority of, I think, people just live in life, they're not sitting around thinking, why am I thinking these thoughts right now? What are the thoughts I'm thinking right now? And then believing. I mean, you can go read The Secret and be like, this is all bullshit. Or you can read The Secret and say, I'm going to put this to work in my daily life. Well, I've been both of those people in this lifetime. Yeah. And one of them was a dumbass and one of them who pays attention to the secret and follows the rules, it's like, this works.
Yeah.
This shit is real.
Yeah.
And it really is. So, just like, tracking through. So you got into high.
I got into high.
And then you're in the rum business.
Where I'm
Do
suddenly.
you like rum? Were you a big rum drinker? Yeah.
So rum.
I love to drink rum when I
Rum
drink.
is my spirit. I've never been a big drinker, and I will never be a big drinker. That's just not in my nature.
Yeah.
I love rum though. Like whenever I would take a break from entrepreneuring, I would have a frozen drink in my hand with an umbrella on a beach someplace. Texas beach, didn't matter, on a lake, wherever, someplace. It was a frozen rum drink. That was my go-to, and that meant I was on vacation.
Are you the type of person, how many of those would you drink on a vacation?
Like one a day.
Yeah,
Two a day.
See, I would do like 10. And that was my problem.
Yeah.
The first one would be going so fast.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
No, I've just never had that, thank God. Because it's hard. It would be
drink
hard
like a normal person.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It would be hard to be in the alcohol business and be that.
That's true.
And so I think, for me, even though I'd sworn it off, I never thought about manufacturing. I had never thought about making and doing and then building this product. And honestly, I don't know that I really considered all of those things when I started this. I was just like, I knew it was the thing. I didn't know why, but I knew how to do it. And so we started this in 2016. At the time, we had 3 partners. And what's really funny is very full circle is our first dinner that we had out there, our first event in November of 2016. It was even before the distillery officially opened because we didn't have our federal permit yet. It took like a year. But our first dinner was with Misty Norris. She was an up and coming chef from Dallas that was just doing really amazing things. And what's really cool is I get to work with her every day now that I've moved back to Dallas.
So cool.
But she kind of kicked off our first thing out there. And then we open and very quickly learn that we're in the tourism business and we have to understand like what people really want, what people really want to pay, how to make these things, and then how to like think about COGS and all the things that sort of go into manufacturing. And then we're still thinking about it, I think, from a craft perspective. And then for me at first, like I felt like I had joined this project as an investor, even though I was the salesperson and helping to like organize the business and all the things of it. I felt like I had joined their project, and so I was very much in the background. I didn't do any of my things. I didn't have I didn't go into chief marketing officer role where I'm sending out press releases and doing all the things, all the things that I had to learn how to do. But I was doing like the web design and the this and the that and like the greeting customers and the menus and all the things that I knew that we had to put into place systems to make an operating business. And one of my partners was running his wineries and one of them was actually our distiller making the rum. And, so, the first couple years was really turbulent because it was new. I was still like floating on some last dollars. I was still like going through some personal things, I come back and I'm having to go like to work. Like I got to go get some consulting gigs. And so I get a consulting gig and everything kind of levels out for me, but it means less time spent at the distillery. Right. But I didn't have a choice. I was like, we can't get paid from it. I got to pay my bills somehow.
Get paid. Yeah.
So we go through and, we're pretty good at it. Like I'm good at that hospitality thing. Remember, I learned from the best, right?
Yeah.
So every time people would come in, they were like, oh, it was a great experience and all this thing. We're learning and like I said, kind of honing in and getting really, I hate to say distill down, but we distill down to what the product actually needs to be and what it needs to look like. And what we figure out is, we can't make a living at this unless we try to make it big.
Be Bacardi.
It's so funny that you say that. I'll come back to that in a minute, but then the pandemic hits and we go sideways, right? We're not sure. We're thinking people are dying. We're not sure. And nobody's sure. But I see this little news article on CNN about this distillery in Seattle that is making hand sanitizers. I was like, oh, hey, James, like, do we have this? And by this time we had bought out our winery partner. He was opened up a new winery, and it was just the best path for everybody. He's a fantastic winemaker. I think he's the best in Texas for sure. And he had a new project. And so we were able to buy him out and get some cash because we were about to start distributing, and the pandemic hits. And so we made this first batch of hand sanitizer, and it goes viral. Like, it goes on the news. It goes all across the state of Texas. Suddenly, like, crazy important people are calling the distillery, and somehow they're even getting my cell phone number. Like, one of the head guys from HEB calls, and he's like, we're looking for distilleries to partner with for the sanitizer. We need this. Like, we've got trucks. We can do this. And so we partner with HEB to do this big deal. And they start supporting our brand and like pushing it across their stores, like with the little sanitizers, because they can't sell liquor there. But 4 of us plus our kids basically somehow turn out 52 tons of hand sanitizer that we donated across the state of Texas through the Port of Corpus Christi to all of the first responders across the state. And one of the groups that reached out was the Dallas Police Department. And they were like, we don't have funds. We don't have anyone to support us. And our officers are out there, and they are completely just exposed.
Yeah.
And so we donated that to them. So it kind of turned into this thing. Anyways, that whole year helped me understand things that I really love to do, which was serve the community, be out in the community, be back into that marketing space, right? Where I'm back on the news, because that was something I did when I was at LaGrange and wherever, like we were all over the place, and serve the community in a meaningful way with our alcohol that wasn't used in a drinking perspective, right? Like, what can you do with it? And then also talk to people, important people, and start really re-tapping into that network and building. And we were seeing, hundreds of people every week. So the network becomes really, really big. And we got a little bit of capital behind us, and we were able to raise again and purchase this building in Dripping Springs. And so we moved from High, which was, small town, super amazing. I loved it. It was on the Wine Road, but we were just leasing that building. So when our lease was up, we wanted to purchase a property that we owned, that we could be building equity in, that would help us grow the brand, that was also closer to home. I lived in Austin all this 5 years, so I was commuting. And so we buy this building, get a loan. Like, nobody writes a plan like I do. Nobody writes projections like I do. To be able to secure that loan. And we got it. And it was really cool because it started, I think, the evolution of the company in a lot of ways, like from us going from this little tiny rural craft brand to becoming an actual brand, to becoming an actual product in the marketplace. It was a very cool evolution. Simultaneously, it was also the start of what I didn't know was going to be my personal complete meltdown. So the spiral goes into like a 100% like burn to the ashes. And
it wouldn't be a meltdown if you saw it coming.
No.
So, yeah, and we've talked about this, but you got into this building and it was just a disaster of a real estate deal, kind of.
It was a disaster of a real estate
You should have
deal.
called me to be your broker.
I should have called you. And
I don't really do like distillery buildings in Dripping Springs, but
well, and
I could have helped you.
It was something that we had been looking for a little while. And so every place that we were looking, like we were coming up on this one kind of sticking place, and one place or another, like either price or it was this or it was that. There was always something that was a sticking point, and this one didn't seem to have any of them. And it was definitely, it was advertised to us as a distillery. It was advertised that it was being used currently as an event center, and it had a full sports bar in it. So it was operating. We bought the building, and it ended up turning out to be none of those things. And it's one of those things
where it didn't have the zoning.
It wasn't about zoning. It's zoned to do that. Like we did all of our due diligence. It was zoned for that. When you move a federal and a TABC permit, there are steps you have to take to make sure that you can have it in that building. And you can't do anything until you do those things. And it's things like you have to have the county sign off on it, the city sign off on it, the state has to sign off on it, and then the feds have to sign off on it. It's not easy. It's a process. We got all of that. We got our clearance from TABC to operate. We got everything. What it ended up being, to my knowledge, because I'm in litigation over this, so I'm not sure exactly what all I should be saying or not, but there's a defect in the construction of the building that doesn't allow high waste use to happen in the building for any type of retail establishment at all, ever. And I'm not sure how or who knew, but somebody knew that defect was there.
Wait, the defect, what was the issue again?
The septic system cannot handle high strength waste.
Oh, okay. And high strength waste occurs when you have a distillery.
It can happen when you have lime juice go down the drain.
Yeah.
It could happen when you have too many people using soap in the sink. It could happen anytime you drop food down the drain. And
nobody who's told you this when you're buying the building.
It had 24 taps for beer. It had a food hookup to the septic system for a food trailer for an outdoor kitchen. It had showers. It was a bar with a stage and stage lights and 17 TVs for a sports bar for people. And so there was no way that we could have possibly known that it couldn't handle high strength waste, especially when it was advertised that way. And so we bought the building. We got all the reports that everyone said it checks. All the experts said, this is a good deal. And we took it. And we started having permit problems, getting the health inspector to approve the waste yield. It was too high. And then it started going down the spiral of, well, we'll need to upgrade. Well, we need to do this. Well, we need to do that. And trust me, I exhausted every possible thing we could possibly do for 3 solid years. We tried everything. We tried every engineer. We tried this, we tried that. And so finally we said, you know what? We cannot. There's no public water system here. There's no sewer system when you don't tap into the city. There's nothing. We're out in the country. We can't afford to do that. Like that's millions of dollars to tap who knows how many miles down the highway. Who can do that? We can't do that. That's not for us, but maybe somebody can. So we put the building up for sale. And as the building stayed up for sale, we started to really understand the extent of the problem. And the problem is beyond repair to what we've been told. And so it forced us to stop operating our mainstream of revenue, which was the tasting room, in 2023. And so 24, we were like, cool, we'll put the building up for sale. It'll sell at some point, and, we'll have enough capital to just focus on distribution. That's what we'll focus on. And we will put all of our resources into selling, salespeople, just cranking it out there. And it started to go, we were taking off. We were getting into other states. We were doing all these things. And the moment that I understood last year, I was in a capital raise. It got to March, and I was in a capital raise, and I go, I'm a little concerned. And I meet another commercial realtor at a party at South by Southwest, we were one of the presenters. And she was like, oh, tell me, what are you going to do with that building? And I was like, well, we've had it for sale for a while. And she's like, oh, I'll take a look at it for you. Let me take a look. Doesn't hurt. I would love to just, take a look. She takes a look at everything and then starts pointing out all the problems. Problems with the contracts, problems with the way the deal was done, problems with our representation, problems problem after problem after problem. She calls the county. Different problem because now we're 2 years down the line. And so she's trying to list this property now and is now having to tell potential buyers all of the problems with the building. And I was like, whoa. Nobody told me those problems. we would have never bought this building. So you're telling me that I have to disclose things that basically negates 95% of buyers from this building that wasn't disclosed to me?
And the value of the building probably.
And not only that, that means the value of this building is maybe a third of what we paid for it, and I have this loan on it? That's what you're telling me? I have to stop raising capital. And you know what that means? We're going to run out of money. And you know what else that means? We have to lay off everyone on our staff today. And everything that we've built over the last 9 years has suddenly gone up in flames over something that was not our fault. And I went into a complete nervous breakdown. I got the stress of that happening. Like, we call the banks, we're letting them know what happened. It triggers another appraisal. All these things happening, but I know that the company is about to run out of money, and there's no way. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. So I start, I just kind of go, but my body starts reacting in a way where I got to where I couldn't sleep anymore. I was sleeping 45 minutes at a time, waking up in a complete panic. Like, my heart is jumping out of my chest. I couldn't eat anymore. So I lost 30 pounds in like 3 weeks. I was spiraling. My hair was falling out. I was crying uncontrollably everywhere I went. Like, I'm not, I'm a super emotional person, but not in the wrong spots. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if you see me crying, some shit has gone down.
Us salespeople are good at hiding our emotions.
I was crying uncontrollably to the Cintas man. He was like there servicing, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "We've got a contract." And I was like, we've been closed for a year. What are you doing here? Trying to get my $300 when you have Coca-Cola and Pepsi. You know better. Like, I was uncontrollable. I was crying on investor meetings, on Zooms, uncontrollably. And one of my friends said, you have to get some help. Like, you can't function this way any longer. And it had been like three months. Like, by the time, like, it was from March, April, May. In June, I had to see a professional about it because I was not functioning anymore. They gave me an antidepressant, and I took the very first pill and got suicidal within 2 hours. Like, the first pill, I felt myself come out of my body, and I started to get hyper paranoid that I was going to prison, oh my God, I have ruined everyone's life. I have ruined my kid's life. I've ruined everybody, like all my investors, all my friends and family that I've invested. Like, the only way out is to die. That is the only way. And I was going to get in my car and drive off of the 183 bridge. And that is exactly how I was going to do it. And I had at least the wherewithal to call a doctor friend of mine. And I said, this is what's happening to me. And he was like, oh my God, you're having like literally every reaction to this drug. And so the fastest way out of it was to take Benadryl. So I take a Benadryl. So then I'm pacing around my neighborhood all night long, sweating, crying, trying not to get in my car and drive off a bridge. And I finally just like collapse. And I walked around my neighborhood all night long. And I collapse and sleep for 45 minutes. That was the best I could do. And I wake up and I call the doctor's office back. And they were like, I can't believe that somebody gave you that. Like, that's not even an entry level drug. And for somebody who's never taken something like that, like, that's irresponsible. And he said, I hear what you're saying. You need to see a primary care physician, like, right away. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have money. I was living off of my mom. I had put every dollar I had into the company to try to get our payrolls met and to try to do everything I could to keep it going and to keep myself going, because I hadn't been paid, really.
Yeah.
And so I had nothing. My mom was funneling me money. I go from a $30 million sale, which I split with 5 people and paid the IRS. Like, let's not forget. So I had about $3 million when I sold the company. to living off of my mom at age 50 and dealing with this thing. And he puts me on a beta blocker, and I got the prescription filled that day. Like, they're like, we got it. Luckily, some friends of mine from Austin, they were like, we got it. We got your copay. We got it. Like, we've taken care of this for you. And the prescription was like $5. I got it. I took the first pill, and it works in 20 minutes. And I was completely back to normal. I couldn't believe it. That 4-month spiral that I was on ended. And I like fell asleep on the couch for like 4 hours. And I finally had some relief from that panic that I was in. That being said, it gave me some time and some mental clarity and space to say, okay, now what do I do? I had to sell everything I had, figure out a way out of my lease. I couldn't afford it anymore. Figure out a way into a new place, figure out how to get my daughter into college. Luckily, I had a college fund for her, but get her there, get a new job, write a resume, get a job in a completely different industry to have some kind of income coming in, deal with investors and bankers and lawyers that we couldn't afford anymore. We had no money in the accounts. And then figure out what to do with this building and all of our things in it. What do you do with that? How do you manage that? It's massive. It's like a crisis of epic proportion, because it wasn't just me and my money. Now it's me and everyone's money. It's me and everyone's credit. It's me and everyone that I've taken into this project. We were going gangbusters to suddenly coming to a screeching halt. Like, I always think of it, this is my one funny reference, is I think of that one I Love Lucy episode where she like pulls the brake on the train and everything flies forward. That's how my life felt. And but I did it. I got my resume written and I got hired someplace, and I got income coming in, and I got myself moved, and I got all of my things moved strategically, thankfully, from a law that I had helped pass a couple of years ago, because I'm part of the legislature for Texas distilled spirits, that I didn't ever think I would use that law. But now I could move some of our things, some of our assets to like other distilleries to hold for a minute, so that all of our inventory that we had made, all the money, the $1 million worth of inventory that we had, we couldn't lose it to somebody in the bank, So I get myself back in line. I get the bank to come out, and they look at our place and they're like, this was like this? This is a distillery. We're like, exactly. Would you have thought it was anything different? They didn't know what to do with it. So they were at least friendly at the beginning, working with us to try to find a buyer. And then I think at the end of last year, when we found out there was no buyer and that couldn't be possible, nobody knows what to do. So it's in litigation right now. But what ended up happening is I got burned down. My ego got burned out. My desire to achieve went away. My desire to be an entrepreneur completely gone. Like, I was like, I will never do that again. I will never, ever be this person or ambitious. Like, I'm gone. But it took me working in that corporate job for about 6 months.
Fuck this.
As grateful as I was for it.
Yeah.
I had this thing swirling in the back, and I believed in what I was doing. I believed in that product, and I knew it had legs. And one day I was sitting at my dining table and I was like, please, God, I think I actually said it out loud. I was like, please, God, show me a way. And my watch went off, and it was an order from my distributor. And then I got a call, and it was a text message from somebody from one of our Austin distributors. And they were like, hey, this one account picked it up finally. I had been working on that account for 3 years. And I knew I had to find a way. And so the apartment complex I had moved into had this really cool, trail in the middle of it. And I was walking the trail, and I was like, I have to get clear. on what I want. And I was like, I need to find a project that is in line with this distillery, that's in sync with it, where they can both operate simultaneously. It can't be a healthcare job that I'm trying to learn and I have no time to spend on this.
Yeah.
It has to be like simpatico, you know what I mean? Like where it's like in sync. And Chris Jeffers sends me a text, and I had called him when this was happening because I knew he had been through something similar. And we kept in contact. He was like keeping tabs on me over the summer. Like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And he sends me a text. He's like, hey, I think I need your help on something. And I was like, cool. So I call him and he tells me this concept. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, if you were in Dallas, like I would want to tap you for this. And I was like, I know. I'm in Austin. And I go inside and I think, wait a minute. The only reason I'm in Austin is because of that building. Because I thought I was tied to this building. Now I don't know who's tied to the building, but we can't be in it anymore.
Yeah.
So what do? My daughter just went to college. I'm empty nesting. There is nothing stopping me from moving home to Dallas.
Yeah.
So I call him and we meet for dinner, and I tell him this whole saga with his building because he didn't know all of it. He just knew something was happening. And he goes, I think we have a building you can use. It used to be an illegal casino. And I was like, that's a distillery. And so we were able I was able to get moved to Dallas after all that, moved to Dallas, reset up here, figure out a plan, start moving stuff into storage units and away and all these places one by one, get into a building. And this Saturday, in 2 days, will be our first day open to the public.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What a journey.
Yeah.
Only just beginning.
It's only just beginning.
That is, I can't imagine, we've talked about it. Like I had like a very big, like spiritual awakening, I'll call it. And it wasn't anything similar, but except like it's just not even the same, obviously like what you went through is all yours. But I had this like thing that happened in 2023 was just like one of those moments where it felt like the world was coming down on me and I didn't even know why. And then, but like to get through that has brought me so much more peace in my life than I feel like I've ever really experienced before. But you sometimes just have to get put through the meat grinder to get there.
I can tell you this, nothing rattles me anymore. Nothing.
Yeah.
Like the place where I was a year ago to the place where I am today is so vastly different. I had the biggest jump in personal growth in the last 12 months. Like for sure. And it came because I had to start from scratch. And I've always had this kind of thing. I said, if I got to 50 and I had to do it all over again, how would I do it?
Yeah.
Well, that was the chance I got. I got completely decimated by this whole thing. Any conditioning that I ever had, any ego, any thought of skills or anything I ever had went completely out the window. And I got to this place where I said, okay, how am I going to do this time?
Yeah.
How am I going to live my life this time? How am I going to manage my finances this time? How am I going to be a steward of the company and also for myself? Because those are the things that like you overlook in entrepreneurship sometimes. You sacrifice your own well-being and personal health and all the things, your family, all the things that you do. Mm-hmm. And you suddenly find yourself all by yourself.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, wow, I burned all that down, but
it's
I'm
a
real
common
successful.
Theme. It's a very common thing. Yeah.
So I got here and I think that I'm in that space where I go, I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm so grateful that people are even interested in the thing that I built.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to be in front of people, talking to them about what I went through, or where can I save you a minute? Where can I use some story that I have that you can use to avoid something or other? And I get to speak all over the state about it.
Yeah.
And how lucky is that? How lucky is it to come back to Dallas and have my old network be so supportive, and not only supportive, but like help in the most meaningful ways, that comes back in and says, we got you.
Yeah.
The city of Dallas, they said, we got you. All that turmoil I went with them in Deep Ellum, I got my CO in 3 days here. 3 days. The city of Dallas said, we want this. I have the first woman of color owned production distillery in the United States. I have it. This girl from Oak Cliff, and the city of Dallas says, we want that. We want you to come home. That was so meaningful to me that I've have these moments where I just like, I'm in awe.
Yeah.
And not only that, but
you
like
should be.
all the people, all my friends, all my family, everyone that has come up. So what I set out to do in 2016 is the same. I said I was going to be $1 billion company. And I think alcohol is a space you can do that in. And I think I can do it in a way that's not just about how do we get people to drink more. Because you and I talked about that. That's never the goal. I'm never trying to get people to drink more. That's nothing to aspire to.
Yeah.
I lived with an alcoholic for a long time.
Yeah.
But how does the brand live on a frequency that becomes a steward of the community?
I like that. Well, congratulations. And I can't wait to see where you go next. Where this goes next.
Yeah, I know. The door's open.
You have so many different business ventures that we're approaching record time on this podcast. Joshua Ray Walker still has you beat, but it might not happen. But just like what a journey. So quickly for the back half, what advice would you give to your younger self?
The number one advice I would give is to continue to live with integrity. That was the big thing. Like, I feel like when you live with integrity and when you do people right, when you need those people, they're there for you.
Yeah.
When you do people wrong, they're not there for you. I could have fallen flat on my ass last year.
They'll never forget.
They'll never forget.
Yeah. But either way.
Either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Have you ever had a mystical experience?
Yes, I definitely have. I remember a time when I was seeing this chiropractor in Plano, and I believe he's still there, but he was doing some acupuncture work on me that really opened up my mind. And I remember being in a meditative state and actually having that out of body experience, like where I was maybe 2 or 3 feet above.
Yeah.
And feeling in that zone for a moment and understanding the frequency of how to tap into, I guess you would say, like a quantum state.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the moment that I became conscious of that, I fell right back in. Like, you kind of, it's a weird like dream state, you know?
Have you ever like met a psychic medium before?
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they would tell you like that you have special powers or something.
They never do, but they always say, you know, you're going to be really successful. And I go, yeah, because I am relentless that way.
Yeah. There's no doubt.
And now
it's inspiring.
Well, now I think my measure of success is so different. Like, I am successful if I worked out today.
Like,
I got out of bed today. That was, man, what a champion I am.
Like, even, I mean, like LaGrange, watching, that's when I knew you, like when we really saw each other the most, right? And just like seeing you just go do that, like you just go do things and like that it's not like you do the same thing over and over either.
No.
It's like, I've got this idea. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to go try. And you go for it full throttle. And that's the only way to live.
I think so.
It inspires me. What is your favorite restaurant?
Ooh, in Dallas, my favorite restaurant is Bangkok City. I go there like 2 or 3 times a week.
Really?
And I've been going there for 26 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to go there sometime.
I'm peeking
I
Brian.
haven't been there in a long time.
Favorite place ever.
I've not been there in a long time. Do you have a favorite book? Are you a reader?
So I'm not much of a reader these days. But I'm a road warrior. So I drive all over Texas. I am that person that will jump in my car and drive to El Paso because I have a meeting there tomorrow. And I'm like, I got to leave at this time to get there at that time.
You would drive to El Paso?
Oh, I drive it. I drive to Brownsville. One time I went from Austin to El Paso to Brownsville to Dallas to Austin. This week I went on one day, I left on Tuesday and I went to Stonewall by Fredericksburg to Blanco to Austin to Taylor to Dallas in a 10-hour period. So what I do is I listen to a couple things. I either listen to a book or a podcast. I listen to your podcast and I listen to Mind Valley. Mind Valley is kind of like masterclass. It's a bunch of like guys. Like one of the things that helped me rebrand was a Mind Valley course that helped me understand the brand frequency, which is something I'd always practice, but I never really put my finger on.
You were like instinctually doing it, but you never, I've had many things like that where it's like, oh, I learned the steps of doing this now, but I was actually already doing them. But once you become aware and conscious of those steps, and then it's like, you can do it with superpower. And then you go like,
oh, wow. Yes. The superpower is the key. So when I knew what the brand frequency was and what the brand wanted to be, the brand became that.
Yes.
And it wanted to live. And it wanted to live past the building.
Yeah.
And it showed itself to me so many times. And me, like, I'm away, like, I'll find a way to do stuff. And I prayed at that time. I was like, if I'm not supposed to find a way to fix this building, I need you to burn it down in a way that I can't undo it.
Yeah.
I heard that from somebody. Take it away in a way that I can't even undo it.
Yeah.
Because I'll find a way.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite quote?
Probably that.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's from Mind Valley.
No, a friend of mine said it. She actually owns a whiskey brand in Tennessee. Her name's Fawn Weaver. She owns Uncle Nearest, and they catapulted to be like one of the fastest growing brands in history. And she says that it's a prayer. I don't know where she got it from.
Yeah.
But I love that. Take it away in a way that I can't undo it. Like shut the door so tight that I can never open it, and open the doors for me that are meant for me to walk through.
That's great.
Yeah.
What else do I have? Is there a charity or cause that you're passionate about?
Yes. My cause that I'm passionate about is always minority business. It's where I came from. You know, I came from Oak Cliff, primarily Hispanic and Black students in my school. And I have a huge passion for helping youth on their path towards entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Especially in the minority space. There's not enough of us doing that. And especially in spirits, like we take up less than 1%. This includes women. Less than 1% of the entire alcohol industry is minority owned. There's a lot of space to grow. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Hell yeah. How do people track you down?
Oh gosh.
You didn't even say the name of your rum brand.
I know.
And
you know what? I never do, because I feel like it's so not even the thing that I talk about. Like you'll talk to some people and they're like, my brand. I forget about it because to me, it's so commingled with me and who I am. But the name of the brand is Island Getaway Rum. My son and I named it in the kitchen, like, because that's what rum reminds me of. It reminds me of an island getaway. And I trademarked it. I do all my trademarks myself, and I help other business owners with trademarks. And it was trademarkable, like hell yeah.
Yeah.
So so that's the name. You can find me on Instagram, Island Getaway Rum. Or my personal one is Stephanie Houston, y'all. I mean, my family's been in Texas for 500 years.
Stephanie Houston, y'all.
Yeah. So that's the best way.
Right on. What an amazing conversation. Thanks for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
What
it's
a story.
lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot. I always tell people I feel like I've lived 7 lifetimes or more.
I say the same thing. Like I've definitely lived multiple lifetimes within this lifetime. And when we have that in common, we discussed it when we caught up a couple weeks ago, just like nothing surprises me anymore. Like I don't really judge anyone for anything anymore. It's like, and just like that compassion you have and the humility that you have after living all those lifetimes here in this one life. That's what comes with it, is the crushing of the ego. And, and you either, I think with that, you were saying earlier, is like you close a business by choice or death. It's like, that's when you get that ego blow, especially when you have like massive power egos, like the two of us have always had. But when it gets crushed, it's like, you're going to be resilient and get through this, or, and learn from it, or, die.
Yeah.
Like those are your two choices. And the choice, that, you always keep taking is that resilience. And then when you get through those mountains and what feel like mountains, then you just come out the other side, and it's like this new peaceful place, and you have all this new wisdom gained from that, like, really tough experience.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I definitely feel like sort of that ancestral calling. One thing I didn't mention is my family is tied to the origins of rum. And I didn't know that when I started this. I didn't know it till last year when I first started going through all of this. And so I think that there's something about the spirit of that and the spirit of rum that is directly calls me to continue on this mission.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Stephanie, thanks for trucking on.
Thank you. So awesome.
Peace.